Chapter 3. Half an hour later, my dad drove Erwin and me over to Baxter's house to pick him up. Abby was hanging out the back window as usual, her bottom lip flapping in the wind. When that happens, I can see her fangs, which are still an awesome sight. These days, though, it was pretty much the only time I got to see them. Unfortunately, she hadn't been in a very fangy mood lately. But she was still the most awesome dog ever, obviously, and I took her everywhere she was allowed. Since Isaac has a very dog-friendly policy, his bakery had already become one of Abby's favorite places to go. Baxter came trotting out to the car. "Hey, you guys," he said. He leaned into the back window and scratched Abby's ears. She licked Baxter's hand in appreciation. It was very sweet and adorable, if all you wanted was a dog who licked people's hands. I wanted more than that, though. I wanted the dog who made me feel cool and brave enough to start the Crime Biters and talk to Daisy in the first place, and not the dog who made me feel silly for thinking she had superpowers. That's a lot to ask, I know. Baxter hopped in the back seat. "Hey, Mr. Bishop." My dad waved into the rearview mirror. "Nice to see you, Baxter." Baxter leaned over the front seat and fist bumped my dad. The two of them were pretty good buddies, which was pretty impressive when you consider that Baxter's dad once stole my mom's diamond necklace. "So, how was the basketball game?" Baxter asked. "It was, interesting," Erwin said. "Daisy's a cheerleader now." "Huh?" said Baxter, who didn't seem to care all that much. His attitude toward Daisy, meaning he treated her like she was just another person, made absolutely no sense to me. I nodded. "Yup, she's gone over to the dark side." Erwin chuckled. "Chad Knight didn't seem to think it was so bad," he said, just because he knew it would irritate me. "Well, I think it's great," my dad chimed in. "Cheerleading is a time-honored tradition, and a fine one at that." Profile. Name. Baxter Bradford. Age. 13, but don't tell anyone. He gets embarrassed. Occupation. Former bully and the only bald member of the Crime Biters. Interests. Lacrosse and passing math. "Mom says that cheerleading is ridiculous and should be banned," I reminded him. "Banned seems a bit extreme," said my dad, but he didn't argue the basic point. "I don't get why boys don't cheerlead," Erwin said. "It does seem weird that it's only for girls. I mean, girls and boys play a lot of the same sports, right? So what's the difference?" "Any boy who joined cheerleading would be laughed out of school, obviously," Baxter said. He seemed a little glum, maybe because Erwin and I hadn't asked him to come to the game. We probably should have, but we were too distracted by Daisy's invitation to remember. Fact, when you're thinking about the girl you like, sometimes you forget about other things, like your friends. "You're probably right about that, Baxter," my dad agreed, which is too bad. "Can we change the subject?" I said. All this cheerleading talk made me think about Chad and Daisy smiling at each other, which was a lot less fun to think about than Isaac's chocolate chip cookies. "You brought it up," muttered Erwin. "Yeah, well, now I'm bringing it down." "I know what we can talk about," said my dad, with a little extra pep in his voice. "You guys getting out of the car because we're here. Pick you up in an hour." As I opened the car door, my dad grabbed my arm. "You know, Jimmy, just because Daisy cheered for Chad doesn't mean that she actually likes him." I stared at my dad. How the heck did he know exactly what was going on in my head? "I have no idea what you're talking about," I told him, and I hopped out of the car so fast I could barely hear him giggle and say, "Of course you don't."